How many Scottish referendums are we going to need?
Damien Green.
Well, I think we've had a referendum in Scotland, and the Scottish people very sensibly decided that they were better off inside the United Kingdom. I think that's good for everyone else in the UK, and certainly good for Scotland.
What Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister, said today was she's determined Scotland will have the ability to reconsider the question of independence. If she comes out saying we want another referendum, would the Westminster government, the British government, agree to it?
Well, we haven't got anywhere near. That's a process point. I'm saying they shouldn't, and I think the Scottish people won't want that.
So you don't think there should be another referendum?
I don't think there should be another referendum.
Alex Salmond, should there be one if Scotland wants it?
I was looking at Damien reading from his Central Office brief about what he thinks about Scottish education and the Scottish Health Service. Damien, Nicola Sturgeon was re-elected First Minister of Scotland in May of this year with 47% of the vote. Now, that is a mandate that the Conservative Party can only dream about. You've got a leader who has not been elected, and your previous leader got 37% of the vote. And in that manifesto that she was elected on in May of this year contained the words that if there is a significant and material change in circumstances, like Scotland being dragged out of the European Union against the wishes of the Scottish people, then the Scottish Parliament should have the right to hold another referendum. And on that manifesto, she was re-elected First Minister with 47% of the vote. Now, that is an unimpeachable mandate to say what Nicola Sturgeon said today.
And will there be a referendum, in your view?
I think what will happen is as follows. I think Nicola will put forward to the Prime Minister Theresa May, representing the interests of Scotland, a plan whereby Scotland can retain its European connections in trade, a plan to defend European citizens in Scotland so they're not treated as bargaining chips or cards to be played, their rights are respected, and a plan to defend the social and employment rights of Scottish workers. Now, that's the plan that will go forward to Theresa May. The ball will be in her court to accommodate that within her Brexit negotiations. If she says yes to that, then I think that will be Nicola discharging her mandate. If she says no to it, then I think there will be another referendum within 2 years.
Which she'll lose again.
I wouldn't be holding it unless she thought she was going to win it. I think that's absolutely right.
Did you hold it believing you were going to win it?
Yeah, and I started the referendum campaign in 2012 at 27% of the vote, and we ended up at 45%. Now, I don't think Nicola Sturgeon is going to have too many compunctions about starting at 48% of the vote, which is where the latest poll shows it. You know, you win referendums in terms of the arguments you put forward and the movement of people. And if you put forward a case which appeals to people's hopes for the future, that tries to address the questions, then you can win a referendum. The argument that Damien puts forward, that she has no mandate for it, is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. If Scotland wasn't a viable and extremely prosperous country with amazing natural and human resources, the United Kingdom Treasury and the Conservative Party wouldn't be so anxious to hang on to us, I can tell you that.
Amol, you'll go.
Gabrielle, you asked, if I remember it correctly, how many referendums do we need? And I think the answer is as many as Alex Salmond and the SNP say they want. Because it seems to me that losing that referendum was the best thing that ever happened to the SNP. They may well have preferred to have won and had an independent Scotland, but they now have a foothold in Westminster, and they now have they're so deeply entrenched in Scotland, in government, and Labour has completely collapsed in Scotland, that basically another referendum is inevitable. I was very surprised that Nicola Sturgeon announced that there was going to be a referendum today, because I thought that, you know, the polls suggested that there hadn't been some great uptick in support for independence. I think it's about 38%, and I thought that actually it would take a bit more time. But actually, do you know what, Alex? I think eventually you'll win, and I think your lifelong dream of an independent Scotland will be fulfilled, because the forces pulling Scotland away, social, political, demographic, from the rest of the country, from the rest of England, are now so strong, and they cannot be tolerated. So whether Alex Salmond gets his referendum in a couple of years or not, it might be in 10 years, but I think eventually Scotland is leaving, and we better get used to it.